virtual reality type experience inside of the projection of your consciousness through the miracle of the brain that is expanding the presence of the body through the sacred loving power of the eternal essence of your true beingness. The parts of you go up to that part of you and say, Bobby Joe, I'm so excited to have you on my team. Do you know how lucky I am that you're here? Do you know how deeply I love you? Do you know how passionately I respect you? Do you know how excited I am for you to be here playing with me? Do you know how much it means to get to share this time with you? Do you even understand how deeply I love you? Do you understand how ecstatically I celebrate you? Do you understand how deeply I treasure you and how grateful I am that I get to spend this time and this experience with you?
When there are past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs stored in present body-mind wiring, affecting aspects of the self right here, right now, it can disrupt the navigation and regulation of the body-mind, and it can reduce the unity and wholeness and loving well-being of the essence of the self, self-essence, all the infinite aspects of the true self. Okay? So past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs throughout experience stored in present body-mind wiring, affecting navigation and regulation right now in the body-mind and affecting parts of the self, parts of consciousness right here, right now. And there's a lot of ways to go about this healing journey of loving liberation. If we work directly with memories and the meaning-making associations that have developed from those memories, we're only touching on the surface. It's actually so much more powerful to go in and work directly with attachment systems and parts of consciousness, self aspects, and the love and the internal needs to experience that love that are at the foundation of all personal experience. And so maybe we can work with the meaning-making associations or memories and make some headway, but there's a much more effective way to go about it. And in this way, we actually don't need to look at the memories or meaning-making associations. We can if it effectively serves the journey, but we don't need to. And this can open some really powerful doors to shapeshift how past experiences are affecting us now without needing to go back into all of the details. One of the many, many ways that I share the sacred medicine of my soul is through one-on-one connection calls of loving liberation. And we create space to go into these parts of the body-mind and into these aspects of the self, to create new information inside of this wiring and these constructs to expand and liberate self aspects. Are you familiar with the concept of social self-engagement? The foundation of the human experience is social engagement, where the brain and the body are actually developed into existence through the interactions it has with other people and how those interactions are tending to the internal needs of attachment systems. And so by socially engaging with other people, this whole brain and body came into existence and now has this blueprint about how to navigate and regulate its own existence. Social engagement is the foundation of the entire planet Earth, where people interacting with other people create a large percent of what the human experience is. And most of that is direct interaction, but we're also always indirectly interacting with each other too. From smiling at a stranger at the park
to reading a book or listening to music that was created by somebody else. We're always having these interactions where we're engaging with the expressions of consciousness from other people. And so the body-mind is out there meeting everybody externally. But the body-mind hasn't really fully gotten to know its own self. And so social self-engagement is a practice of cultivating distinction and connection between parts of the self while nourishing internal attachment needs in some fun and creative ways. And there's lots of ways to go about doing this. One really powerful practice that I serve as a guide through in these loving liberation sessions, offered in different ways, which I'll explain in a minute, is that we go into a region of the body-mind that has energies from past experiences in relation with unfulfilled attachment needs. And we tap into the energies of that area of the body-mind and create a brand new experience for those aspects of the self to experience the satiation of the attachment needs that were not met before. And in this process, we activate that information that was created during the past experiences and we rewrite it. And this has lots of flexibility. We can fully bring up everything that was in that past experience. But again, working with meaning-making associations and memories is actually not the most effective way to do it. More often, we'll tap into just a couple components that are stored in memories just to activate the right regions of the body-mind. But without looking at all the past experiences, we'll just bring like 3 little aspects or components of that into this new experience. And then we go on a hypnotic adventure of consciousness where we actually generate a new internal experience where there's distinction and connection between parts of the self. And in this new adventure, the self practices fulfilling attachment needs for these parts of the self, okay? So in the present moment, there's the awareness of the self, and there's the present moment experiencer of the self with like lots of different aspects, okay? And then all of these past experiences, whee! Hi, I'm over here. I'm the self that was in the past. Hi, I'm the aspects of the self that were in the past. There's a bunch of parts of the self that are in present body-mind wiring that was created during those past experiences, okay? And so this process helps the awareness of self guide the present moment experiencer of self to fulfill the attachment needs for the past parts of the self who are here in present body-mind wiring, okay? So that's kind of the concept. I'll give you a short little succinct example. There's a lot of potential for this, but this is just one example. Let's say there was a past experience and Bobby Joe got picked last for a team and he was teased about it, okay? Bobby Joe, you're such a loser. Oh my God, nobody ever picks you and you're just, nobody wants you on their team and you're clearly unwanted and unloved and that's why you were picked last for this team and this memory is going to haunt you for the rest of your life. Okay, so poor Bobby Joe, bless his heart, he got picked last for this team and he got teased about it. And now Bobby Joe's up here in a present moment experience, but there's still body-mind wiring about being so unloved and so unseen and so disrespected and so unsupported. And that past experience is stored in the present navigational structures of the body-mind. And the self who was there is actually parts of consciousness flowing through that body-mind wiring right now. So there is no self in a past experience. There's parts of the self in present body-mind wiring. Okay, that's an important distinction. We're not working with past experiences. We're working with present body-mind wiring. There's a big difference. Subtle, but big. Discreet, but important. Okay, and so then we're going here. We're like, okay, all right, Bobby Joe, we got to help these parts of you
And so we go into an imaginative setting where there's a similarity of that experience without pulling up the exact experience, okay? So maybe let's imagine that Bobby Joe's at a park and there's 20 different aspects of Bobby Joe who are playing this game, okay? So instead of bringing up all the people who were in the past experience, they're now irrelevant, wiped out of this encounter entirely, and we're bringing up a new experience where there's 20 different people or parts, and they're all Bobby Joe. So they're all the self. So we're not giving away our power to past experiences or other people. We're taking our power back by being in the present moment with all these parts of ourself, okay? And so then we're in this, right? And then, okay, so Bobby Joe, you're at this park, and there's 20 parts of you, and you're all playing, and now it's time to pick the teams, and all the parts of you are picking all of the parts of you. All of the parts of you are picking all of the parts of you. So you're picked first, you're picked second, you're picked third. And when a part of you is picked last, it's still all of you choosing all of you. And then when we go in, then it goes to that part of the self who is picked last. And maybe they're picked first this time in this example. And when they're picked first, the parts of you go up to that part of you and say, Bobby Joe, I'm so excited to have you on my team. Do you know how lucky I am that you're here? Do you know how deeply I love you? Do you know how passionately I respect you? Do you know how excited I am for you to be here playing with me? Do you know how much it means to get to share this time with you? Do you even understand how deeply I love you? Do you understand how ecstatically I celebrate you? Do you understand how deeply I treasure you and how grateful I am that I get to spend this time and this experience with you? And then these parts of the self get to play this game where it's all the self. And it's in presence and it's in love. And that part of the self that was picked last by other people in a past experience is now picked first by the self in the moment and gets to feel their attachment needs being met by the self in the now. But by bringing up particular components of that past experience, like you're in a field, playing a game, picking a team, then that data can be indirectly reconstructed because with every activation, this body-mind wiring is reconstructed and the memory systems and the meaning-making associations automatically generated from that are all about abstract associations. So you don't have to bring up the date, the time, the location, the people, what the weather was like, what you were. You don't have to bring up any of that. You can just bring up like 2 or 3 components like we just did in this. It's kind of a silly example, but it's just to give like an abstract idea of some of the concepts and techniques that go into this. It's just kind of a silly example, but it kind of just gives a little blueprint sampling, right? By just bringing up a couple components of what was relevant and then having this new experience, then that can actually be reconstructed, okay? And so it's a practice of internal social self-engagement in a hypnotic type experience. You close your eyes and you go on this detailed adventure where you're visualizing and imagining and feeling and allowing and kind of having a virtual reality type experience inside of the projection of your consciousness through the miracle of the brain that is expanding the presence of the body through the sacred loving power of the eternal essence of your true beingness. And then we get to activate this region of the body-mind, but not look at what exists. Instead, we're just going to activate it, leave it be in the background, and then go over here and have a brand new experience where there's distinction and connection between parts of the self, and parts of the self fulfill attachment needs for other parts of the self. And so there's a lot of ways we can practice distinction and connection between self aspects through this adventure to reconstruct either a specific experience or a specific time period of life, like covering a few years,
or a specific region of the body mind in association with a certain style of navigation or a certain region of memory constructs or a certain region of meaning making associations or a certain region of masculine, feminine, subconscious energies or a certain region of attachment needs or a certain region of self aspects. So there's like a lot of different ways that we can go about doing it just depending on what the intention is. And so whether you want to reconstruct like a very specific experience or like, you know, your whole childhood or like, you know, 5 years of your life or something, or you want to focus more on the navigation, be like, okay, there's this region of my body mind that's navigating life in this way and I don't know what or why, but I'd like to change it, and this approach seems like it could, you know, do something really cool to shapeshift this stuff in like a really loving, fun, gentle way that like actually makes some effective transformation. So there's a lot of different kind of ways you can go about doing this, but it's a practice of social self-engagement through an internal, imaginative, hypnotic adventure of consciousness, basically.
Among the infinite ways that distinction and connection between self aspects may be practiced during this experience, among the infinite potentials are practicing distinction and connection between the awareness of self and the experiencer of self, or the observational self and the experiential self, or distinction and connection between the childhood self and adulthood self, or foundational self and present moment self, or distinction and connection between parts of the self encountering specific styles of subconscious navigation, like certain parts who are associated or connected with different perspectives, emotions, action patterns, somatic sensations, etc. Different aspects of the self encountering certain types of navigation through the projections of body-mind wiring that were created during past experiences but exist now in the internal wiring. Or distinction and connection between self aspects from different time periods of life, like different seasons of the healing journey, or different years, or different seasons of how you expressed yourself or associated with yourself, etc. Or distinction and connection between self aspects throughout certain regions of body mind wiring, which can be explored through the neurobiological social engagement system or different diagrams and treasure maps. There's different ways to pinpoint regions of the body-mind wiring and the self aspects that are flowing through those regions. Or distinction and connection between self aspects in relation with my various treasure maps and diagrams, such as exploring the parts of the self as love's embodiment, champion, presence, and witness, or perceivers, receivers, preservers, and extenders of energy. And there's a few different ways that we can play with this, okay? The first style is through a mystical odyssey imaginative. And you can find out more about mystical odyssey imaginatives on my website. It has all the information and some samplings. And with that, it comes with a recording of the session so that you actually use it for many weeks or months afterwards and continue to use that session that we did together to create further layers and depths of transformation and further heights and expanses of liberation. And then we can also actually do a brief session as part of a treasure mapping call. And with that option, just as like infinite potentials here for all the miraculous ways I may be of service in the healing journey of living liberation. In this case, in this example, then we would use the treasure mapping to map out the body mind and pinpoint what's happening and everything. And then we would go through all the processes that we would normally go through in a treasure mapping call. And then towards the end, we would just do maybe like a 10 or 20 minute session, just depending on how long the call is and how much time we want to invest in each part of it. But then we can go in and just finish up the call with like a brief kind of style of practicing this to integrate everything we did through the treasure mapping call. We can also explore this on audio calls, and that can range in different levels of time. So there's a lot of different options. But basically, It's a practice of social self-engagement to transform a region of the body-mind and liberate those parts of the self, to resculpt past experiences and how they're affecting now, and to resculpt regions of body-mind wiring and how they're affecting now, and to lovingly liberate and unite these parts of the self and how they're able to experience themselves now. Okay, so it's a really powerful practice. It's really beautiful, lots of potential, and it's an incredible journey because it really reaches into what matters. It really reaches into what matters, because what matters is not the past experience. What matters is not the unfulfilled attachment needs in the past. What matters is the parts of the self who have attachment needs now and want to have new experiences where they feel fulfilled. And we can do that in a really fun and easy and gentle and loving way. And the results and benefits and effects and the transformation cultivated are unparalleled. It really gets to the foundation of everything and creates the transformation that we so deeply deserve, the transformation we desire and we deserve to experience. I first developed these concepts 5 years ago when doing my inner work pretty independently. And I've developed them, continuously expanding the ideas and the application and the specificity and the precision of them, the enjoyability and the loving application of them through my Implicit Revelations Case Study. And after witnessing their profound powers of restoration, transformation, and liberation continuously over the past 5 years, I am so ecstatic to offer this sacred medicine for you now. If you have any questions, you can always fill out the Connect with Kristin form on the homepage of my website. If this offering interests you, you can go ahead and book a session. Again, the Mystical Odyssey Imaginative is definitely highly recommended because then the session will be used for you continuing forward, or you can just do it through an audio call. You can always request a recording of the session for an additional offering, and then if you want to add it in to a video call where you're exploring other stuff and then just maybe include this for a little part at the end just to give it a try or something, that is also an option as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day, and I am sending you infinite love and light. Oh, this is an infinite one. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Interesting.